of the Iowa Farm effort to connect with our legislative issues that are as the legislative session begins. And we are very happy to be joined by Threase Harms of Advocacy Strategies, our lobbyist. Thanks for being with us, Threase.
You bet.
To just give people a couple of reminders, if you'd like to join the policy committee, we meet every 2 weeks to discuss legislative efforts in Washington, D.C., and our own policy efforts on how we develop the Iowa Farmers Union policy. So consider joining us for our regular policy meetings on Monday nights. I also wanted to remind people that our lobby day is taking place on February 21st. That's Wednesday, and we'll start at 10 o'clock, and we'll be at the Iowa Genealogical Society to start the meeting with briefings and updates, and we'll have lunch, and hopefully we'll be joined by some good Farmers Union friends as guests over lunch before we go up to the Capitol and lobby in the afternoon. Lastly, I want to remind people that National Farmers Union is taking place, convention is taking place in Scottsdale, Arizona on March 10th through 12th. We've got a great Iowa delegation going. So we'll look forward to all Iowans who can join us for the National Farmers Union Convention. So I will go ahead and as the legislative session has opened and we want to get an update and have a good conversation about some upcoming issues. So with that, Threase, let me pass it off to you and give us a quick rundown in a few minutes about how the session is open this year.
You bet. Well, good evening, everybody. It's wonderful to see your faces. And the legislative session, we just started week 4 of a 100-day session. So I think we're 20 to 23 days, something like that, into the 100-day session. It's been kind of a slow start. As many of you know, that the first couple of weeks are a lot of pomp and circumstance and a lot of just organizational types of meetings for the committees and that sort of thing. So there hasn't been a ton of activity, although we're starting to see some of the bills roll out now. And so the governor made some comments in her efforts. The one that was most notable, I think, on our behalf was limiting foreign ownership of land, of Iowa farmland. And so more to come on that. That bill does have subcommittees this week, so we're anxious to hear and see what comes of that piece of legislation. So that was one that was talked about in the first couple of weeks there. And then otherwise, we've just been having a variety of conversations. During the interim, we spent a lot of time working on language on the mega site bill, because that was another one about, buying, foreign ownership and allowing that to happen. And so we've been working closely with a group of House Republicans on that language in particular. And then also we have a fix-it amendment that we worked on over the interim with the Department of Inspection and Appeals on the the home food sales language. And so I did get a confirmation from Senator Green today that language is ready and hopefully should be coming down just about any day. So so those were kind of setting the stage. Last week in particular was kind of the first initiative of legislators to really get busy to work. In about a 20-hour period of time over about 2.5 days, there were 160 subcommittees. And so that's a lot. That was a lot for even legislators. And so, but we're kind of where we are in session right now is we have 2.5 weeks after tomorrow to get bills to the first funnel deadline. So these anything that is new this legislative session, or is just an individual House or Senate study bill or file, has to make it through their subcommittee and their standing committee by February 15th. And so there's a little bit of time. I think things are starting to trickle. Today was really slow as well, but I think in the next they're going to start to get this urge to maybe get some things done. So we'll see. But kind of the first notable deadline for you all to be thinking about is that February 15th. And then I believe that next week you guys are coming in for your lobby day. So it'll really kind of set the stage for the issues that will be prominent and where we can spend some time and energy talking about some of those issues that are still or moving forward at this juncture. So that's kind of I know I dabbled into a couple of the issues and I think I'll get into that next, but that's just kind of where we are and point right now as far as the legislative session is concerned.
Well, very good. And we will want to jump into some specific issues and I have a few folks who have offered up some questions already, Teresa. So why don't you lead us, would you like us to jump into those or would you like to go into more specifics on other pieces first?
Well, how about I'll just jump in on a couple of things that we've already been active on, and then I can go into some specifics. One of the things I forgot to mention is that I did talk with the budget appropriations chairs over the course of the last couple of days, and it appears as though they're going to really start their budget conversations in earnest at the end of February. So again, really good timing for us as the time that you frame that we're coming in to have those conversations. As far as issues that have been, I talked, oh, and hey, congratulations for all of those that came last week on Thursday for the local foods day. Thanks, Tommy, for all your work and making that happen. And Aaron was there and I put him to work doing some other things. And but I think it was well attended and well received. And I think it seems like everybody had some good conversations. Is that accurate? I didn't get to be in a lot of those conversations. So, anyways, just thank you for those of you that did come and congratulations on that. So, so the big issues right now that have been, I already talked a little bit about the governor's foreign land ownership. So that's going to be happening this week, having that. Also, there's been a subcommittee on grain indemnity. And so interestingly enough, it had one subcommittee and it failed to move forward. And then it had a second subcommittee and then passed unanimously. So they went ahead and they switched the makeup of the members on that subcommittee so that it could move forward. Aaron's been involved in conversations with not only the members of the Farm Bureau, but the co-ops just to kind of figure out where we want to go with that and where Farm Bureau, or excuse me, where Iowa Farmers Union wants to be on that. Farm Bureau is registered, I believe, for it. The co-ops are registered monitoring as well, but have some concerns with that bill, particularly the amendments that the Farm Bureau wants to bring forward. So, so that I know was something that you guys talked about at your board meeting, and I've not had a chance to talk with Aaron, so I don't know where we are on that, but so that one's moving through the process. The Iowa Economic Development Authority has really set her sights. Debbie Durham has set her sights on getting the mega site bill done. And so we've been working with Charlie Thompson, who's a Republican from New Hampton, on some language about not only transparency, but then the putting some caps in that language that's consistent with other foreign land ownership in that bill. So that's in play. I mentioned that Jesse Green let me know today on the home bakery or the home food sales language. So he confirmed he got that language today. So I expect that bill to be coming out here in the next day or so. And then Chad Ingalls has that companion also in the House. So we should have that moving simultaneously and they'll have that moving through. I'm trying to think of other highlights. Today, the soil health bill. This is one that Aaron had some conversations on as well during the interim. We had some meetings with key Republicans in the Senate because it's already passed unanimously through the House a couple of times, but so it's been sitting over in the Senate. So we had some really good conversations with folks from the House. And really, I think in the Senate. And I think what's really key about that is from what I understand, that there are some dollars that USDA puts into states that have soil health programs, and Iowa doesn't have a soil health program right now, so we're not getting those dollars into our state. But secondarily, it then really puts all the soil and water conservation districts on the same page in knowing that they should and can otherwise be working with independent farmers on soil health initiatives. So I think that's the goal and the purpose of that. And so where you might have folks that are maybe a little bit more conservation aware and friendly, and that's happening maybe in their district, but not maybe in somewhere they're not, or maybe they're just not aware. So I just share that as another one that seems to be generating a little bit of interest. Finally, Secretary Nag presented today to the Ag Committee on the House side, and he laid out, I'll get the email out with all of the details of the points that he covered. He did talk about water quality, and I forget all the 4 points, but there were questions asked, tough questions, I think, and unfortunately, I don't think that anybody really got, there were real no answers to those questions. But more information. I'm Susan is shaking her head. I hope it's not me, because I know what she's thinking. But anyways, so there's been a lot of kind of, I shouldn't say, there's been some questions and thoughts about the state's investing a lot of money in water quality, in particular, the NRS. It's 10-year anniversary. We still don't have a lot of data. And so the question, I shouldn't say a lot of data. We don't have a lot of progress, right? And so how do we make sure that that continues to move forward, especially if the state continues to invest resources in that space? So those are probably my high levels. I'm sure there are others that I'm just forgetting at this very moment. We did have an opportunity, I know, on the complaints language that the Senate heard. I know the House also has that bill coming up, so we'll speak at the House subcommittee on that too. And so just not in that bill just says that nobody, you can't make an anonymous complaint against your neighbor. And you know, I mentioned, in addition to representing you all, that you know, you just need that process in place in order to be able to sometimes get to some of these issues and concerns. And I know folks have mixed, you always have that one neighbor, right, that complains about the same thing every year, whether or not it's true. And it's just the frustrating part. And I don't know if that bill really has legs at the end of the day. But it was, I largely am confident it was brought forward by Representative, or excuse me, Senator Zumba. And so he was the only one that really had to express interest in that bill. So it may move forward in the Senate, but I don't know if it goes anywhere beyond that. Okay, I'll stop talking and I'll answer questions.
Well, we'll get to as many as we possibly can. I have a couple already in front of me, but if you have a question, just raise your hand using the button on the Zoom call, or just raise your hand physically, and I'll try to catch you as best as I can. We got a nice group today, so we'll try to get to as many as we can in our time here today. So one of the question asks about foreign ownership, because it seems like there's two different things happening, right, Teresa? We've got a bill putting in more requirements for reporting. Although it doesn't seem like the public has access to those, maybe the Attorney General's office and legislator might have access to it, but reporting. And then on the other hand, we have an exemption that's being proposed by the Department of Economic Development. And so the broad question asks, how can we be thinking about two things? One is adding more requirements, the other one making an exemption for someone. And I think it was more of a philosophical question. Is that philosophical question floating around the legislature too?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you say that. And that's one of the things too that has perplexed. And I get the feeling that this was a not to diminish the intent, but of trying to address the issue, the concerns that a lot of, particularly the House Republicans, have with the mega site bill, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think it was this idea of like, we'll take care of this over here, you just let that bill go, right? And then we're going to take care of it over here. That's a little bit of the sense that I'm getting with that. So yeah. not sure, you know, as those bills start making their way, or at least have a subcommittee this week, because they're both scheduled, I think, for this week. Those just came out. I think I maybe sent those along to you guys, that, we'll get a true sense of, you know, where they really want to be on this issue, and does one really impact the other, so.
Okay, you know, we had talked about how the session ended last year on these issues with foreign ownership, and we had some folks who really made a very strong stand and defeated the mega site bill for last session, but it is back. What's the attitude of those staunch supporters of our position on land access issues and how they relate to foreign corporations owning the farmland and these exemptions? How are they hanging in there with us?
I think they're very much hanging in there with us at this juncture. I feel like, and for those of you that are certainly here on the call, you understand and know that the politics that play with a bill like this, and in particular, you know, how the governor has played in the elections. And so as you start looking and seeing kind of how some of those things fall out, or intertwined, if you will, we see this is one that House Republicans feel there are some House Republicans that feel very firmly and clearly enough to make it so they don't have 51 votes to bring this bill to the floor. And that's, so it's been held up. And then, you know, I've had members that are part of our group, I shouldn't say part of our group, but the opposition, people who are opposed to this in the majority caucus in the House, who said, let's have fun with this bill this year. So they're continuing to stay on the ground, if for lack of a better way to say that, and they're just really feeling very firm about particularly that language in the bill. And so, you know, I came back and said, you know, last year we offered amendments. We want to find a way to work. If this bill's going to move, we make sure there's protections, protections for, you know, our most valuable asset. So, so we'll see. I do get, like I said, I don't feel like we've lost anybody in that space at this juncture.
Okay. We also had another question asking about the subject that we haven't covered specifically tonight, but it deals with the Attorney General's office. We had a Attorney General who had done a lot of work both in Iowa and nationwide on antitrust issues. And that seems to have changed drastically with this Attorney General. And the question asks is, can we do anything to bolster the efforts of the Attorney General when it deals with antitrust issues? It's a tough one.
Yeah, that is. You know what I would say more than anything else, and AG Bird has been reaching out to organizations when they have their lobby days, and being open to having conversations. She's new, and she's wanting to, you know, connect with groups and understand, I think, what their issues are. And so, if that is something that the group would like to do during, hi, Representative Eisenhart, if that's something the group would like to do, then, you know, and have a conversation with her, when we're in for your lobby day, I think it's worth it, to just figure out, you know, whether or not there's an opportunity to share what our concerns are, at least brief her on them, and, you know, go from there.
Okay. I'm looking for folks who might have their hand raised or a question in the chat. We will try to get follow up with bill numbers on specific pieces of legislation that we refer to tonight, and get that out to folks. I saw that question in the chat. Any other questions or thoughts that folks want to share? Teresa, we spent a lot of time talking. Oh, John, go ahead. Please go ahead, John.
Get it. There we go. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit the other day, and I think it's important that we make sure everybody understands what the mega site bill really is about, and that's my understanding is it's about greasing the skids for some kind of big outside company to come in and put in some kind of manufacturing or processing plant of some sort. And I'm sure everybody's keeping their cards close to their vest on exactly what's involved. But I think we need to not lose sight of the fact that the last time Iowa did this, the biggest investment Iowa ever made in tax dollars is now being sold to the Kochs, and that needs to be stuffed in the face of every damn legislator who wants to support that mega site bill and say, you're going down the same darn road again, and look how well that one worked out. And just have them choke on the hypocrisy involved.
That's a very good point, John, and and I'm glad you brought that up, and we're going to be trying to lead the effort to shine some light on a really awful situation on that as soon as we can. So I'm glad you brought that up. Susan, your hand is raised.
Yeah, it's more of a logistical question for Teresa. It's been a couple of years since I've been to Lobby Day, but when we go, it's often the legislators say that they're in subcommittee meetings or committee meetings. And it seems like the ones that we really need to talk to, like my beloved Bobby Kaufman, are never available for when we're there. And so 20 or 30 or 40 of us sit around sending in notes and never getting at anybody. Is there any way to, I just don't want to organize to drive people to Des Moines just to stand around the rotunda. No offense, I love seeing everybody, but is there any leverage we have at all for getting our legislators to actually come out and talk to us?
So remind me, so we are on Wednesday, the 21st. So I like the fact that we're on a Wednesday because they're generally around on Wednesdays. I can't say the same for Mondays and Thursdays. So the day is a good day. So I'll start with that. Second, that I would say is, the sooner that we'll know the schedule. The other thing that we'll have a pretty good indication on, or we will have been through funnel, right? So we'll be in the first week post funnel. And so although they will have, it'll be a little bit of a quieter week, I guess, is my as I compare it to the week before funnel or the week after funnel, it's going to be quieter than the week before funnel or the week after funnel or the week of funnel. So, I'm just talking logistics of time frame and those sorts of things. I think the biggest thing and the most important thing to do before you come is to reach out to those members, tell them that you're going to be there, like do that like the Monday before you come or the Sunday or the Saturday or the Friday or whatever, because they're going to know largely what their schedule is on that Thursday, like the 15th, 16th time frame. So anytime after that, reach out to them and say, hey, we're going to be here for Farmers Union Lobby Day. I want to meet with you. Here's the time frame I'm available. What works for you? And so I would go with that and reach out to try to schedule those individual meetings with your individual legislators. We otherwise work on scheduling meetings with key legislative leaders. And I know we've done that in the past, and we can work on who that list is. And if the group wants to have a meeting with Bobby Kaufman, then we can request that meeting with Bobby Kaufman. Now I won't guarantee that one, he's available, or two, that he's willing to meet with you. Those are two things that I can't guarantee, but I can definitely put the request in. And that is, I mean, I can work with Aaron and Tommy and Christina to figure out who is that list of policymakers that we would want to schedule meetings with.
I wouldn't want to start time on Bobby, but Pat Grassley, maybe. Bobby's not worth it.
I also wanted just to check in with you, Teresa. We had our lobby day with the Iowa Food System Coalition for farm and food justice and dealing with local and regional food system issues. And and Representative Eisenhardt is putting some things in the chat will be of interest in that regard. And I'll let Tommy share also about the progress that folks were making on the recent lobby day last Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Aaron, and thanks for being here with us tonight, Teresa. So last Thursday, we had about 40 members of the Iowa Food System Coalition come out, a few who are on this call, so thank you for being there. And we were able to meet with 18 legislators, at least that we know about, and those were people that lobbied, filled out reports for each of those legislators, so we kind of have an idea of what these legislators in both the House and the Senate on both sides of the aisle are thinking about these initiatives. The major 4 initiatives we're working on in the local food space right now involve the Choose Iowa program, increasing investments towards that as the IDOLS has recommended, in creating an allocation for double up food bucks for that program to continue to thrive at our state level. There's a new bill out for rural grocery stores and small grocery stores in the state that helps to build up some of the local markets for food growers. And then the last one is hopefully, we haven't seen a bill number on this yet, but a farm to school program funding $1 million towards that. And so we've been working with Representative Ingalls on that. I think unfortunately this year we were a little behind the 8 ball as he didn't submit the draft language until the middle to end of December. And so that was a little bit later than we thought we should have gotten it in. So we might still see some of that initiative come through in an amendment later on or something like that. But that's where we're at with some of those local food issues.
So Tommy, I'm assuming that would be an appropriations issue as long as he got that in before that January 19th individual bill draft deadline, because it's if I'm assuming it was written as to appropriate $1 million for local foods or farm to school. If that's the case, then that's eligible for debate and discussion through the end of the legislative session, not subject to the final deadlines.
Yeah, I think that's what we're hoping for and part of the nuance there is that the farm to school fund already does exist in Iowa code. And so you're right, it is just an allocation to that already existing farm to school fund. So that is definitely a positive.
Yeah, it's clearly just an appropriations issue. So that's good. Not a policy.
We also had a few questions asking where we feel the eminent domain issue is going to be fought in this legislative session. Are we seeing any Senate signs of life on the Senate on the protecting eminent domain and restricting eminent domain from those using it for private gain?
Yeah, unfortunately, the Senate doesn't seem to be interested or inclined to want to take up anything in that space. And so I just don't, I think even if the House continues to send things over, which I feel that they are going to potentially, I just don't think the Senate's going to do anything with it.
Yeah, okay.
I think that those are fights that they're largely just letting be played out and through the Iowa Utilities Board.
Yeah, a lot of work yet to be done there, then that's for sure. Okay, I'm looking at our screen for any other questions or comments. In the meantime, I'll encourage people to sign up for our policy committee. We meet every other week during the legislative session. We talk about what issues are pressing in front of the legislature, but we also talk about our agenda in Washington, D.C., and we talk about policy development, both within the National Farmers Union and the Iowa Farmers Union as we develop our policy at our annual meetings. So if you haven't had a chance to join us on the policy committee, please consider doing that. I see Chris has her hand raised. Chris?
I do. I would like to join the policy committee, and I have a couple of questions about that maybe you can help us with. I'm also on the platform, on our local platform, our county platform. there is a big chunk of policy or platform planks about ag. They are out of date and ugly, most of them. And would it be possible, or is it ethical, or is it something that you might recommend that the policies in IFU's book could be used as models for planks?
We would encourage that for all parties, not just any one party, but our policies, we hope, get implemented by all the political parties in Iowa. So yes, that would be appropriate.
Then my next question is this, I have the book from IFU's December meeting, the annual conference. And I know that we made changes. I stayed for that policy discussion and we added a couple of planks. I was able to get Millie Varley's plank that before we modified it in its first form so that it could be modified by our county if they decided to. But is there an electronic version of the IFU policy book?
I believe there is, and I think we can distribute that to the group. If that's Tommy, would Christina, would that be possible to distribute an electronic copy or a link to it?
Yeah, Tommy, either you and I have that finalized version, and we'll send it out in this follow-up email with the bill numbers we talked about.
Wonderful. I'm so glad that I found out about this meeting. And you said every other week, not just every Monday.
That is correct.
All right, I'll put it on the calendar and I'll watch for, will the link be the same or will you send a link each week, Christina?
Yeah, the link will be changing. So you'll get
Okay.
one in your email.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Aaron.
Well, very good. Well, folks, we have gone over our allotted time of a half hour and we'll look, and I know we've got a lot more ground to cover, so please consider joining the policy committee. We'll be picking up these issues again. In the meantime, thank you for joining us. And I'm going to remind people the Iowa Farmers Union Lobby Day takes place on Wednesday, February 21st, starting at 10 a.m. We'll look forward to seeing everyone there. We've had every kind of weather this winter, so we'll see what we get that day, but put it on your calendar to try to attend. And also remember, we will be having our National Farmers Union Convention taking place March 10th through 12th. We've got a good set of Iowans coming there. We'll look forward to talking about policy along with our workshops and electing leadership at National Farmers Union Convention. If you're interested, go to the link on the chat. So with that, I'm going to check in. Christina, do we have any other remaining items that we need to give reminders about?
Nope, that's everything. You can join us Thursday for an update on Bloody Run Creek with Wally Taylor. That'll be our lunch and learn that week. So
very good. Well, thank you, Christina. Thank you, Tommy. And I will look forward to seeing people on Monday nights and hopefully see you this Thursday on our lunch and learn with Wally Taylor and update on Bloody Run. So we'll look forward to seeing everyone again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.